Good night and welcome to the Galen Hour. This is season 10 of the Galen Hour, and this season we're talking about protecting our wildlife. This is our 5th episode for this season, and tonight we're talking about worldwide birding, and we'll hear from an organization that works with or does birding and facilitates birding in the country, but also does other important conservation work in our country. So, as you may know, the Galen Hour airs every Wednesday night, and it is a production of Galen University. It showcases its dedication to academic excellence, it advances sustainable development, and cultivates a passion for lifelong learning. Good night to our viewing audience. It's always a pleasure to be here. We have in studios with us tonight Ms. Danae Swayze, who's the coordinator of the Environmental Science Program at Galen University. Welcome, Ms. Swayze.
Good night, Ms. Diana. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for being in studios tonight. I know Ms. Swayze had joined us, I think, 2 episodes ago,
Yes.
but was virtual. So we're glad we could have her in studios. We also have with us Francis Cantor, who is a research consultant for Belize Karst Habitat Conservation. Francis, welcome.
Good night. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in studios as well. And joining us as well is Tyler Tejeda, who is a Galen Eagle and an environmental science student.
It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have all 3 of you in studios tonight. I'm Diana Gomez Perry-Feet, and it is an absolute pleasure to host the Galen Hour. We have a quick Galen Hour break, and we'll get right back into our conversation. Stay tuned for Galen Hour tonight.
To every man, every young leader, come back to the classroom. No excuses, no limits. It takes the same discipline, the same winning mindset. It's time to get back in, back to the classroom, back to your purpose, back to finishing what you started. Continue to choose the best for yourself. Come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Hello Eagles, my name is Raul Castillo. I graduated Galen in 2022, earning a bachelor's degree in environmental studies. My time at Galen was like no other. I had the opportunity to work with professionals and work with like-minded individuals that had allowed me to gain the knowledge and the skills and put me on the career path that I am now. Through hard work, dedication, and involvement at Galen University, I had the opportunity to further my studies. As a Galen Eagle, I can proudly say that I hold a master's degree in marine biology and biotechnology, and I can proudly wear the title of a marine biologist. I currently work as a consultant with the Inter-American Development Bank in liaison with the Belize Fisheries Department. I can wholeheartedly say that Galen has shaped me into the professional that I am today.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. Tonight we're talking about worldwide birding, and we have in studios representative from the Belize Karst Habitat Conservation. We have a Galen Eagle who's in our environmental science program, and we have the coordinator for the environmental science program with us. So welcome again, and thank you for joining us tonight. I want to ask each of our guests to just quickly talk about how they're involved with birding. If we could get started. Tyler, you want to start as the eagle here with us tonight?
Yes, for sure. So my adventure with birding started a year ago with Ms. Danae and Mr. Canto, and I've really been enjoying it. I focus more on community-based birding and also backyard birding. We have a wide range of different species, and just taking a look outside for like 30 minutes each day, you could really see a lot, and that's where my ambition started for birding.
Fantastic. Francis?
Yes, so we met Tyler through one of our programs at Galen. My story in birding started around 2016. Since then, I've been involved in a couple different programs. So currently, I work both as a tour guide and as the researcher, one of the researchers for Belize Karst. But apart from that, I'm a dedicated birder. I do a lot of photography. I work with the eBird team from the Cornell University. And yeah, I just enjoy sharing birds with people. Here in Belize, we have over 600 species, and it's amazing, like Tyler was saying, just stepping outside of your yard, the amount of species you can see. Pretty neat. So I enjoy sharing birding with the community, people around, and anybody who's willing to take in a little bit about it.
Beautiful. Miss Danae?
So I am not as advanced as Tyler and Francis. I would call myself a by chance birder, I would say. So I've done trainings with Belize Cars, the same one that has been offered to our students here at Galen University. And I've done maybe 1 or 2 minor 5-minute bird watching with my students. So that would be about my experience with birding so far. I do have 2 parrots that live outside my house, so I'm grateful for them. But apart from that, I don't think I'm good at bird identification as yet.
Maybe after tonight we'll be a little bit better.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least
for sure.
knowing more about what we have in our environment. Very good. So tell us a little bit about Belize Cars Habitat Conservation. What is its mission? What is it all about?
So Belize Cars Habitat Conservation, BKHC, or just CARS for short. All of those are fine. We manage 2 protected areas. One of them is the Tapir Mountain Nature Reserve. It's a little hidden, you could say, because being a nature reserve, it's pretty strict in terms of access. So, for example, you could compare it to like a national park. Nature reserve, you can only do research and education. Meaning, students like Tyler from Galen, being that we have a nice MOU with them, when I do my research activities, I could take Tyler along to assist with that. But for the average, everyday Belizean or tourists, getting access to the reserve is not that easy. It needs to go through a couple different steps. So we use like citizen science programs. For example, this year or last season, Tyler participated with our Christmas bird count, which is the oldest running citizen science project in the entire world. I think this is the 125th year it has been run, and we're a part of that. So with projects like that, then we can get communities and people who don't usually know or can access Tapir Mountain to get a little bit of it. Then we have the 1,000-foot Falls, which growing up in Belize, one of the most amazing places, beautiful ecosystems, beautiful habitat. That protected area is different because it's a natural monument. So from that, we can have visitors, you can go visit, take your family. We've now made the road accessible, so it's a lot easier once you have a high clearance vehicle, or once it's the dry season, almost anybody could get there. And we have the trails there. We have one of the most iconic species, the orange-breasted falcon. So we are managing these 2 protected areas. Both of them have access to waterways that lead to the Belize River, so they're essentially important. So for the average Belizean, come out and visit us at 1,000-foot Falls for sure. We have some cool birds there. You can see part of the biggest watershed in the country. And yeah, we manage the 2 protected areas.
Okay. Good. So is there something in common with these 2? Why these are the 2 that CARS Habitat Conservation?
So the main common between the 2 parks would be the Roaring Creek. The 1,000-foot Falls is actually like the headwaters for the Roaring Creek. And that's actually one of our boundaries for a part of our protected area. So we can manage higher up where there's no activity, and we can also manage lower down closer to human development like farms. So for example, we can do our water quality analysis. We can take samples near the 1,000-foot Falls, which is pristine, and then we can take samples after it has passed through like farmlands to see if there's a change in the ecosystem, or if we have issues with chemicals being introduced. So it's good because we can look at both ends of that watershed, which eventually flows into the Belize River, which is the river we all know, La Ruta Maya. We have access to drinking water, different things like that. So it's good to keep track, and then we can compare and contrast from the 2 different reserves.
Great. Ms. Danae, from a learning perspective and from what Galen offers through the environmental science program, how does what Habitat conservation, or CARS does, tie into the lessons and the important aspects of what is taught in our program?
So the activities conducted by Belize CARS in their protected areas that they manage is pivotal to our learning within the environmental science program. It provides our students with practical in the field experience and knowledge, I must say. So for instance, Tyler conducting the bird watching, that is actually a key part of conservation. And by partnering with Belize CARS, we have actually allowed our students to get that experience, that field experience in terms of conducting bird watching, knowing how to identify certain species, being out in the field, being out in the field with the heat, the mosquitoes, learning to work within that environment, which to be quite honest isn't easy. So I know Tyler and Francis can attest to that. And it gives them a sense of belonging and appreciation as well for the natural ecosystems that we have. So in class, we're learning about those theories. So we learn about all the different species in Belize. We look at biodiversity, the management, the conservation, and that aspect of protected areas management. But we can actually see that in the field when working with Belize Karst.
Fantastic. So, I mean, there's nothing like actually the practical, real side to our theory. So this is fantastic to know. When you mentioned an MOU, you're talking with them, it was Galen.
With Galen,
with
correct,
Galen
with Galen.
University, yes. We have a signed MOU in place with Belize Cars, and we actually do a lot with them. We're intending to do a bio blitz with them as well. Hopefully this year. We've been putting it off a couple of years, but I think we need to get that ongoing for us, and it would be very instrumental to our students to actually get that overnight camping experience, the field experience with them.
That field experience. Before we go on though, can you tell us what karst is?
So karst is, speaking of the geology, which would be limestone. So people often compare karst to like Swiss cheese. It's all cut up. And Belize, we're known for caves, Maya sites. The Maya sites, most of them are made from limestone. And the caves are karstic because of that Swiss cheese, the water flowing underground. So karst is referring to the geology of the area, which is the limestone.
Limestone, yes.
Very porous.
Great, because I think sometimes people think karst is an acronym in and of itself, and so I wanted to, thank you for that explanation. It helps us to better understand. And is that the topography? Well, it's not really topography, the geography of the Tapir and 1,000-foot Fall area?
So
Tapir Mountain?
Tapir Mountain is mainly karstic, whereas when we get to the 1,000-foot falls, we have a little bit more granite in that area. So when the name started, we were doing the Tapir Mountain Nature Reserve, and we saw the need for 1,000-foot falls management. So we might have to add something else. It's not just karst anymore, but eventually we get some fringes of karst near that area. But majority of the Tapir Mountain is karstic. So we have a lot of caves, a lot of seasonal springs, which are very limestone based, a lot of Maya structures in the reserve, which are built up from limestone. Pretty easy to cut in terms of when you look at rocks in comparison to like granite. So
yeah, Belize is just really so very rich in biodiversity. Tyler.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the backyard birding and community birding. We've mentioned e-birding, the e-birding. You said you do e-birding with Cornell University. Tell us a little bit about the e-birding.
So the e-birding is a way to jot down the birds you see, like for example where you see it, the day, the time, and actually if this species is going to be in season, so if you're going to see this species or if you're not going to see this species. So for me, two apps that help me the most is Merlin, which I use to identify the bird first. So it would use microphone or picture, and it would tell me what kind of bird this is. Just not exactly that bird, but it would describe the bird, and I could pick, and based on my description, I could see, okay, this is my bird. And the other app, eBird, I use that to jot down where I saw the bird. So I use a GPS tracker, and while I'm out birding, I track and jot down exactly where I've seen this bird, and that keeps a tally and keeps a tally of my different species of birds. So I really love that app, and it's helping me a lot with birding, and I feel like every day I'm getting there slowly but surely.
That is wonderful. So everybody who is into birding has access to these apps?
Yes, it's a free of charge app, no charge. All you need is your email, create a password, and you're ready to go birding.
Great. Francis and Tyler, can you tell us some of the rare birds that have been spotted? Is that what's the right term? I spot a bird?
Yeah, rare bird.
Yeah, spotted is fine.
Rare bird.
I saw a bird.
I saw a bird.
Yeah.
So, I could go first? Or?
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right, so, for the 1,000-foot falls, the most iconic bird there is the orange-breasted falcon. And the orange-breasted falcon, a falcon, so it's a bird of prey, it's a raptor. And it's actually one of the most endangered species we have in Belize. And 1,000-foot falls is actually one of the best areas in this entire region to see that bird. And the reason why is because it nests right next to the falls. So we recently had a team went out, I think it was in last week, to do a nest survey. And I think there are 3 chicks already. So that's pretty neat, because when we look at orange-breasted falcon, the reason why it's so iconic, there's between maybe 20 and 25 pairs known to exist between Belize and northern Guatemala. It's almost missing from the rest of Central America until you get to Costa Rica and then maybe Panama. So Belize and northern Guatemala is like the last stronghold for northern Central America. There might not even be any records for, say, Mexico. So it's just, so for us, that's one of the most important species. And if you haven't seen it yet, now is the time. Go to 1,000-foot falls, and you have a very good chance of seeing it. That's the iconic bird for 1,000-foot falls. Yep, that's the iconic bird.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I would call it village birds. So in my era, the rare birds I would find would be the lessons mutmut, squirrel cuckoo, and also a barred ant strike. So these birds you won't see every day, but you know, just a glimpse of it or hearing their chirping, you know, that would make your day. And also one of the largest woodpeckers, the pale-billed woodpecker, you won't see that every day, and you know, that's one of the village birds, you know, that you would see them if you go outside and, you know, just take a look.
Any village? Or is it particular to certain parts of the country?
Well, particular to like more these, Cayo, the west, forested areas, but you know, like I said, backyard birds, anything could be in your backyard, anything.
That is true. Some beautiful birds can happen.
Yeah, just
you
show
fly
up.
through the yard. Like I was saying to, I think it was last week we had on, we were talking about the pesticide control and the raptor. That was
Village
it?
Raptor
Yes.
Center.
Yes, and that we have the barnyard owl. Is it called?
Barn owl. Yeah.
Barn
Yeah,
owl.
American
Barn
barn
owl.
owl.
That
Yeah,
used to visit my yard every time around. Sometime in the summer they'll start coming, or late summer into October, and I never know why. And then they told me maybe they're rats, and I'm like, but they're not rats in my. But maybe in the neighborhood, and my yard is
Monkey
cemented.
bird.
But so that one still has me. But I realized that there could be
That,
things in the neighborhood.
that's the bird that has like that myth behind it.
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
that has
Yes.
a myth behind
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't believe the myth.
They're very, very good birds to have around.
They are.
They are.
Like a nesting pair of barn owls can eat 10 rats for the night. Imagine having
So
5
that's
pairs
why
in
they
your
have
neighborhood. That's why you don't have any rats, because the barn owls take care.
Yeah, barn owls right there.
Like, how about the harpy? Any sighting of the harpy in any of these areas? You know, the harpy is our mascot.
The harpy. So it's possible we might have information next week. There might be an expedition in one of those areas.
Oh, wow.
But when it comes to harpy, the range of harpy, it's a very tough bird to see anywhere. And we have hopes that we have those big raptors in the protected area, but it just comes with time. You literally have to be at the right place at the right time, and the bird has to. It takes a little bit of luck for some of these birds, because you can plan an entire expedition. But we have hopes that this bird or these big raptors are using both protected areas, because if you look at a map, it's forest all the way from Tapir Mountain, into the Thousand Foot Falls, into the Siboon, and all the way down into the Maya Mountain Massif where we know that bird has nested. So a bird could easily make their way up. It's just timing.
Wow. Yep. All right. So are there, you know how our conservationists are always creating corridors? Are there what would you call it? Protected. Are there corridors created in any of the reserves that you work
So
with?
that's one of the biggest plans for Belize Karst. So the way that Tapir Mountain sits right now in terms of protected areas, it's like an island. But it's not bad because to the south of the reserve is all still forest. It hasn't been cut. To the north, it's all gone. So we can't do nothing to the north. But we're planning to try to get the remaining forest between the Tapir Mountain, Thousand Foot Falls, and the Siboon, so that Tapir Mountain can no longer be an island. It will be connected to other protected areas. And that's good because we have big animals like jaguar, which need a big range to move around. If, for example, say, we lose the forest around Tapir Mountain, then it gets pretty difficult for like the iconic birds. For example, a harpy eagle will think twice about crossing 200 acres of farmland. So we need to have these areas established and protected. So when we do find the birds in the area, we know that they can hang around and won't be risked like of being persecuted by, because there's a lot of myth with these raptors, right? They're big, they look kind of scary, they might eat your pet, but that's not a thing, that's just a myth. So yeah, one of our main plans is to try to connect Tapir Mountain with the Thousand Foot Falls and the Siboon River Forest Reserve. And that would be by gaining some private land that's in between. So that's one of the main projects we're looking forward to. Hopefully within the next couple of months everything is set and we have that connection and we don't have to worry about maybe the land being turned into farmland. So the hope is to get it under our NGO, and then we can protect that area, and then we don't have to worry about the fragmentation, because habitat fragmentation is a big issue for birds, the big mammals, the game species. Once you start to lose connectivity, then it gets pretty tough in terms of conservation.
Yes, very interesting. And how does what you do, because you talked about being part of the eBird team with Cornell University, but how does what you do tie into the worldwide effect for birding and protection of
birds? So, not even just me, even Tyler with his backyard birding.
Yes.
So, eBird is a really powerful tool. It's citizen science. So, you can't have, like, say for Belize, you won't have 1,000 researchers going out to look for birds, but we have eBirders like myself and Tyler, who even if you submit an eBird checklist from your backyard, that goes towards a global database of bird sightings. So the backyard birding counts towards that. And then we have like the birding in our protected area, which we use a specific protocol that was developed to monitor land birds in Latin America. So it's a regional project, and we use eBird as well for that project. And what that does, it helps to develop trends and status for different species. So what I do for my research is we do quarterly counts. We have the protected area split up into different points, and we try to visit them during the different seasons. Here in Belize, we don't really have winter, spring, summer, and those things. Well, at least not by looking outside, but the birds, they're used to that cycle. So, for example, we do a survey in winter. And what that winter survey does, it shows us, hey, we have birds from the eastern United States that spend the North American winter in the forest here. And by using eBird, we submit that data. So if I'll use a bird that you might get in your backyard, like an American redstart. It's a black and orange bird with a fantail, pretty neat. So if a researcher is studying the decline of American redstart in North America, they can be like, okay, let's see where American redstart goes during winter. You pull up eBird, you type in American redstart, and it generates a map that shows you Then you might see from Tyler's backyard, hey, there's an American redstart there every season. You look at a protected area, you're like, we use like heat map, so it shows the intensity of the color is how many observations of that birds you get. And a lot of birds use our protected areas. And by using eBird, we can share that information we collect here with researchers all over. So when Tyler wants to do his master's thesis, maybe he wants to study the movement of yellow warblers, he can tap into the data that everybody collects on yellow warblers. So it's a global database, and like Tyler said, it's free. And every single bird counts towards it. So it's a really good program.
Sounds fantastic. Tyler, what has been one of your most celebrated moments in birding and submitting?
Well,
your
for me, right off the bat would be like the sighting of Lessons Mutt near my era. I had an opportunity one time, but you know, I got too excited and make a lot of noise, and the bird flew away. But I had another opportunity, and I took that opportunity as I got it, and I got some awesome pictures and recorded it instantly. So yeah.
Which bird is it? What kind of
The
mutt?
Lessons Mutt.
What's so special? What was so special about that
It's
bird
just, you know, the color, it's just so unique. It looks like they just put it on the canvas and just started painting.
Oh,
the colors
wow.
are so bright and beautiful. Yeah. It's
And
a
it was in
really
your
amazing
backyard?
bird. It was a couple yards away, but you know, it's a really good bird.
Great.
And he was indeed really excited about that because I think you had a test or an exam the day, and as the exam ended, he came, Miss, I saw this bird, and I was like, let me see Tyler, knowing full and well that I can't identify anything, but I saw his enthusiasm when he showed me that photo, so I can tell that this is his little niche area, to be quite honest, the birding.
For sure,
Very.
for sure.
Very nice. This is so interesting. I mean, I see all sorts. I do not have plants in my backyard. It's a cemented backyard. One of the worst decisions I ever made, but I have to live with it because it was done.
Sorry,
But I see lots of birds flying through. Yeah. So coming back to the corridors and to the fact that you, through eBirding, we can actually log the birds that are migrating. But do we actually, is that something that we do on a regular basis? We look to see and to contribute to the migration of birds in this. Well, how do they migrate? But in our region,
Monitoring it.
how does what you do? Yes, the monitoring of it. Yeah.
Yes, so when it comes to migration, we have what they call flyways, which we often look at migration stemming from North America. So Canada and the United States. When it's winter, the birds move away from the cold and come down here. And usually during winter or during spring or fall, there's like a peak when the birds move, and that's when you want to get out because you want to see if anything new pops up. So, and just by going out, even if you don't see anything new, by submitting the list, you can see how the birds move. Like if you go on eBird, like I'm gonna use eBird a lot because it's there and it's accessible. You can select a bird that you notice disappears from your yard. Like say you have your yard and maybe there's a yellow warbler that visits you every year. And you notice in May, you no longer see him. You can go on eBird and type that in, and you can actually see the movement of all the yellow warblers moving from the eastern United States down into our protected areas. And we often focus a lot on North America, but another cool thing is we also get birds from South America. So now in what we call the dry season, we have a lot of what we call austral migrants. So they do sort of the opposite migration. They leave South America and they fly north and they breed here. So like this time of year, like me and Tyler were talking earlier, he noticed the yellow-green vireo started to show up.
Yeah.
It's a small brown bird, but you can hear it. You're going to hear it all day long. And they're only here during, like we call it the dry season or like the summer months. And then they leave. But what it shows the importance of our protected areas here. Because initially during research of birds, whenever they saw a decline, they would often look at the breeding grounds, which is in North America. But you also have to look at when they leave. For example, as in Belize, we see a lot of development going on with the clear cutting of forest. We have birds that they have site fidelity. So with research, if we do bird banding, we can individualize the birds. And some birds will come back to the same 50 square meters every single year. So if that bird leaves and goes home, goes and makes babies and comes back, and somebody cut down all of that forest to do corn, then now that bird has an issue.
Yes.
He was already used to this site. He came back. He's been doing this for 10 years. Maybe 5 years. 10 years is a little bit of a stretch. He's been doing it for 5 years, and then he gets back. And then, so that's where, again, corridors come in handy, or come in purposeful, and also all of our protected areas. We keep the sites available for these birds when they leave their breeding grounds. So, very important.
Yeah, I have one more to add to that. You know how you would see this like bushy area on the side of the road thinking it's just bush? You know, if you really take a time and just stand up there and listen, you would be surprised how many species of birds interact with that area. It's not just a piece of area of bush, you know, it's actually home, food, and protection for the birds. So that was one thing I wanted to add. And it's really important to like take these things into consideration because, you know, if those things are not accessible again, we're not going to see those species ever again. And like he said, you know, if you find this one area and you go to that area every day, you will find the same bird there every day.
At that particular time.
Part like lunchtime, morning time, evening time.
Yeah, this is really good information for those of us who just take for granted that the birds are just flying around or they're in a tree.
Yeah.
And we cut down, we burn areas and with no consideration for its impact. You know, and that's one of the big things. I think our last episode for this series is next week, Wednesday. And we have the zoo coming on to talk about fire and how it impacts our wildlife. But yeah, we're at our halfway mark. As easy as that. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with the Galen Hour. Stay tuned.
Good day, everyone. My name is Karima Lambert, and I am a proud Galen Eagle graduate. After completing my bachelor's degree in environmental science back in 2023, I was given all the skills and background information necessary in order for me to work for the government as a marine biologist and supervisor. My team and I manage the Glover's Reef Marine Reserve, which is one of 3 atolls within the country and 4 atolls on this side of the world. I'm specifically tasked with reporting on scientific data, both observed and gathered, using some of the very same methods and skills learned while getting my degree.
My year, my life, my education. Galen University, my choice for excellence in education. Apply today. For more information, email us at admissions@galen.edu.bz or give us a call at 614-6415. Come soar with the Galen Eagles.
Welcome back to the Galen Hour. We're talking with representative from Belize Karst Habitat Conservation and Galen Eagle Tyler, as well as the coordinator for Environmental Science Program, Ms. Denise Swayze. We have Francis, who's representing Karst. And we're talking a lot about birds. And hopefully after tonight, we don't take our birds for granted. We get a little bit more interested in paying attention to who they are, putting them on do some e-birding, right? And being aware of how we share the environment we live in and the space we live in with our birds. We figure they're flying in the air, so we don't have to give them as much attention, maybe, but we do, right? So could we talk a little bit about how what we do here is impacting decisions that are made internationally with respect to birding and birds?
So the really neat thing about birds is how detectable they are. You can hear them, you can see them, which means that they are really good indicators of what's going on in your forest. We can look at other big species, for example, jaguar. That's a really good top-level carnivore. So If you have them, it's really good for your ecosystem, but they're a little bit harder to detect. You need to have up camera traps and so forth. Takes a little bit more effort. But when it comes to birds, most of them are vocal, and so you can start to detect them. When we do the research, most of the detections are by sound. We hear them more than we see them, but we can determine if that bird is in that ecosystem or not. So one of the things that we look for are what we call conservation targets, which some of them are like charismatic species, like Lessons Motmot is a very charismatic species. People will like to see that bird. And then we have like the top predators, like you said, harpy eagle. Once you have harpy eagle in your ecosystem, then that shows that the ecosystem is doing pretty good. So when we do our research, it's to focus on the birds, which can give us a snapshot of the biodiversity of the area. And in programs, for example, like the Christmas bird count, that goes towards an international program whereby it takes a snapshot of where all the birds are it's mainly in the Western Hemisphere, but it shows you a snapshot of where all the birds are during winter. So you can know exactly if for example, you are researching the wood thrush. Wood thrush is a bird that Belize is like one of the strongholds for its wintering. So if we lose a lot of forests in Belize, then our North American counterparts might have an issue with their wood thrush. They might have less nesting, less breeding birds. So we collaborate a lot with using like the Christmas bird count and eBird to show status and trends in both parts of the migration of the bird. So breeding and then the wintering. And I will go back to eBird because they're the ones that really pushes our data. And for a lot of the species now, you can literally look at the decline. So if you are a protected area manager and you want to correlate your data to North America, you can look at a specific species of birds using data that I collect, that Tyler collects, that any of the Galen students collect. And it helps to show just what's going on anywhere with this specific species. So it goes internationally.
Yeah. So for international birders who know that there are certain birds that will be in our region or in our country around certain times, what opportunities exist for them to work with or to experience birding through cars?
So with karst, like I was saying, when it comes to Tapir Mountain, it's a little tricky because of the regulations, but we're hoping that we can develop like an ecotourism program. It has to go through different legislation and so forth, but the hopes is that we can open at least a portion of the reserve to low impact tourism, which ideally is birding and nature walks. Nothing too intense. So we don't want to do like anything like ATV or zipline or anything extreme. We want low impact so people can come and appreciate the jungle. They can see the birds and the birds are fine with that. But that's for the future. As it stands now, we get a lot of international birders at the 1,000-foot falls because it's accessible and it goes back to the orange-breasted falcon. People travel from all over the world to see that bird specifically, and you could spend 7 days in the country and might not see that bird. But at this time of year, you're almost guaranteed if you go to the 1,000-foot falls, you take a little time, you can see the bird. So, and since we've gotten management of that protected area, we have now, there's restrooms. Now it's accessible, so we see motorcycles, we see cars, everybody going back there. We have a really nice lookout now. And yeah, apart from just the orange-breasted falcon, you have like the pine specialists. That's the only part of the country that really has pine at a higher elevation. So we have a few species that you can only see there, like maybe for somebody from North America, where most of our birders are from North America, you can see things like rufous-capped warbler. You can see like the Central American Plumbeus vireo, Ferruginous pygmy owl. So now we already get a lot of international people visiting the Thousand Foot Falls for those species specifically.
Very good. Tyler, how can you use birding as a tool to interest young people
So
to take care of our environment and wildlife?
yeah, the way I look at it is that the more birds you see, the more healthy your area, and for kids that's just starting, like I said, I'm pretty big on the backyard birding, just just protecting your yard or around your yard, that could really impact you and you could really see what all is out there, like Mr. Kanto said, by hearing, sitting outside, admiring the birds, listening to their complex sounds, because not all of them are the same, Each and every single bird is different from one another, and just by hearing them, you would really get the gist of it and really understand, like, wow, this bird are really complicated, because how can they make that sound, And it really pushes you to try to get more, try to understand more. So,
What attracts birds to come and put a nest by your window? I have every year there are these little blue-colored birds.
Blue-gray tanagers probably.
Yes.
I hope you don't get rid of them, Deanna.
You probably have good energy, that's why the birds.
Oh, okay.
shows
In
up.
my
Another
bathroom windows, one their voyeurs. I don't know, but yeah, but they're always little bird babies are being hatched in my backyard. It's interesting that what happens in my backyard that has no trees.
Yeah, birds are
So
resilient, so
imagine
they'll figure it out.
the areas that don't have. But is it that they're just looking for a safe space?
Correct, yeah. So probably your house is higher, so the higher the better. If there's no trees around, then a windowsill can be a good alternative. But that's why we want to keep the trees in the protected areas, right?
Yes.
Because then that's what they use. But some species can adapt quickly. Other species, it doesn't work out once the forest is gone.
Yes. There are two things that from listening to you. Tyler, you mentioned entering your backyard and protecting your backyard. That's one thing. And then
Yes.
earlier, so I want you to speak to what you mean by protecting your backyard for us.
Okay.
And then before I forget, I don't want to forget, we had talked about we talked about pesticide control and issues last week, and you mentioned about chemicals in the water. And I wanted to come back to that and hear from you, Francis, of there are any incidents in your protected area where there had been any pesticide issues or chemicals that have impacted the area. But if we could go with Tyler first.
yes, for sure. So what I mean by protecting your backyard, right? You know how your grandparents would plant a tree for you, By carrying that motive on, that keeps the generation of birds going. So, and also by keeping your area clean and not really making the area overgrown, that also keeps the population of birds really want to come back and nest and feed. If you have one tree that you see a bunch of different species on, keep that tree clean, keep that tree safe, birds are going to come back and eat and really love your area and love that area, because once a bird comes, they're going to stay and always return to that area. If they find food there, they're going to come every day for food. So that's one of the main things to protect your backyard, because you never know what's going to pass through it. You never know what's going to pass through it. And like Mr. Kanto said, the seasonal birds, I have my backyard about like 5 different species of warblers. We have the squirrel cuckoo, 2 different types of woodpeckers, and all of the social flycatchers. So that's a good indicator that my backyard is healthy,
It's healthy. Yes, Francis. So a little bit about, because we're talking protecting the birds. So are there any issues with chemical issues in any of the areas?
So yeah, and we were actually discussing that a few days ago. So we have one section of our protected area along the Roaring Creek, but on the other side of the river there's a commercial agricultural field, and they do spray pesticides. So we do expect some drift to be coming into the protected areas. What happens, we might not see the effects of it instantly. but there's something that we call bioaccumulation, where it starts at the smaller organisms and then it moves up the way up the food chain. And way back when, that was an issue with the DDT, and in North America they were losing bald eagles and peregrine falcons because what the DDT did, it made the eggshells very weak. So the birds would sit on the eggs and the eggs would crack. So without eggs, the population doesn't grow. So with that, they ended up outlawing DDT, but it takes some time for you start to see the effects. So we also do water quality analysis. So it just takes time. We will need to do some specific research to see if maybe we start to lose the raptors. Because in some other areas, we also see evidence, depending on the crops, they might use pesticides for rats as well. And then we have raptors like edge habitat. So they will nest and everything in the protected area, but they might use the edge because it's a little easier to catch this rat that's running across this open field. But if that rat was poisoned, then we might find a dead, maybe a gray hawk in our protected area. So we haven't had any issues with that so far, but as time progresses and then we get different types of pesticides being used or more being used, and then we get the bioaccumulation going up, we could see effects of that. For now, thankfully, from the research I've been doing, it hasn't been bad, but who knows in the next 5 years. So it's an issue, and that's where we really think it's important for, especially our long rivers, to keep that little buffer. But in that instance, that field is planting corn all the way up to the river. So when they spray the crops, they're going to be spraying right over the river. If, like, the government could establish, because right now it's 66 feet, if they could up it to 150 feet, then that gives a much bigger buffer, and chances of drift is a little less. So it's a thing to look at nationally, because as you know, Belize, we're focused a lot on ecotourism, and birding is growing. And even apart from birding, even if you're not a birder, like I do tours mainly to the caves, but people who are not birders will always appreciate a toucan. They will always appreciate a motmot. If we lose those things, then we start to lose some of the essence of the ecotourism here. So if we can get, like, from a national level, we increase river buffers, then things like pesticides, well, the spraying pesticides are a little less. So hopefully we don't get any big issues, but it is a concern, especially with that section of the reserve.
Indeed, we're being informed about. Ms. Day, any of what we're talking about here forms part of what is taught in our environmental science program?
Yes. Not just any, all of it, to be quite honest. So within the program, we have what we look at is like an introduction to biodiversity, and within that we do look at birds as one of those activities. Apart from that, the students are required to do a couple of out-of-class trainings. For instance, birding, the water quality monitoring. We had a student that went on to do an internship on Project Mangroves. So we've tried to incorporate a lot of the field activities within the program itself to build the capabilities of our students. We also have 3 field-based courses that, of course, expose the students to these environments. So your watersheds, your tropical forests, and as well field studies where you would do something like birding within that activity. Apart from that, within their ecology course at the university, we often partner with a visiting university, Agnes Scott, and we have a practical day for that one. This year we went to Thousand Foot Falls as a part of that practical day activity, and the students got the opportunity to be out within that habitat. They heard the orange-breasted falcon. They did not see it. Everybody was trying to see it. We could hear it, but like Tyler said, like, it's unique. It's different for you to hear the call of a bird as opposed to just seeing one, the regular birds that we would see around us. Being out in the actual ecosystem and hearing a bird making a call is unique to them. It's interesting, and even our visiting students found that very unique, So I would say a lot of what we do within our classrooms has to be backed by practical activities, and that's why we partner with entities like Belize Cars to give our students those practical activities.
Very good. Tyler, you enjoying what you're doing
Yes,
and all of the
no.
experience?
Yeah, for sure. I really love it, and you know, one bird, that really have had me with this feeling, having me getting this feeling is the green jay. The first time I saw the green jay around my area, I was like, no way, I haven't seen this bird before. Why is this the first time I'm seeing this bird? So that's where my interest started, and I'm not stopping. I'm planning to go all out.
You know what you call that? That's called a spark bird.
Spark bird.
Spark
Yeah.
bird. Usually everybody has a spark bird.
bird.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's my
Interesting.
spark bird. Every time,
That's a good bird to be a
and
spark
you
bird.
know, it reached to the fact that I don't even have to like see it. I just hear it. I know every single call, and whoop, that's a green jay.
That's nice.
Spark
Wow.
bird, yep. That's a good one.
How do you fund what you do at Cars?
So at Belize Cars, it's a combination of, we get grants from both local and international organizations. We also get grants from PAT at sometimes. And we do have a few, we call them private donors because they don't really like the publicity. But we do get funding from some private donors. And then sometimes we get in-kind funding, like for example, Christmas bird counts, usually when it's a part of our management plan, so it's data collection. But we get birders who, they will volunteer their time and their fuel to go and visit parts of our circle. So we get both financial donations and then donations of like time and effort and so forth.
Oh, great. Are there any initiatives or projects you're doing right now to encourage more young people or to outreach for education of or younger or people, period, within communities?
So we participate in a few different activities. We have one that's focused very urban. It's called the Backyard Bird Count. It's in February. So what we do from our office in San Ignacio, we invite different groups, like for example the Scouts, different birders from around, and that's just a good step into birding. And then when we do the Christmas bird count, it's a little more intense than like the backyard birding, but we will invite people who want to try it out. And then we do like big days where you would spend like a day just trying to figure out how many birds you can see. That one is pretty intense if you're like a new birder. You might not want to do that one first, but like the backyard bird count is one of our biggest things. And then the Christmas bird counts, and then like the big days. For example, we have 2 big days each year, which is not just us, but internationally. Actually, one big day is this Saturday coming up, May 9th. So it's called Global Big Day. And we, not even just specifically for Belize Cars, but just as the birding community, we try to promote this activity to get people birding anywhere you are. Like when it comes to a big day, all you need is 5 minutes. You submit your list, and it counts towards research. So, but when it comes to the communities, we try to offer, like for example, the training we do with Galen. We would try to offer that to we call them stakeholders. So with Tapir Mountain, we don't really have any community that directly borders the reserve, but we have people who live a bit further out. So we try to do different outreach activities where we tell them about the birds in the park and why you should protect the birds, like Tyler was saying, why you should keep the trees up in your backyard. And then from there we try, our main hope is to like develop like bird watching clubs. Like say for example you have a youth group in your community, like one of our communities would be like Tea Kettle. We would do like, we have different consultations for different like stakeholder meetings and so forth. And one of the goals is to like promote birding, not necessarily birding only at the reserve, but birding anywhere you are. Because what it does, it plants that little seed. So if you have a kid who likes birds, then that might make mom and dad be like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't shoot that chicken hawk. Because my kid told me, hey, you know this bird doesn't eat chickens, this bird eats snakes. So it's actually a good bird to have around. So things like that are what we try to promote with our different activities.
Yeah, we have like 5 minutes to go. So I want to use this 5 minutes for last words from each of you. But I want quickly before that, are there any success stories that you have that demonstrate the work of CARS, how it's really being impactful?
Yes, definitely. And that comes from our research again. So one of the things when we started managing the Tapir Mountain Nature Reserve, it had been abandoned for some years. So going in, you wouldn't be seeing things like the game birds. Usually the big birds like the curassow, the crested guan, and the turkey, they disappear because that's what people hunt. It's a big bird that you have enough food if you shoot one. And when we started management of the protected area, just by having people there, then eventually the hunters stopped showing up. We started to implement camera traps, and we started to see like we're getting these birds back. We start to see things like we've gotten all 5 cats, so jaguar, puma, ocelot, margay, and jaguarunde. Of course, the tapir, which is our national animal. And when we see these animals on our camera traps, we always look at them and they are so healthy. So meaning they're not having to, people are not shooting at them because our presence is there. And we start to get species that we didn't even know were in that area. For example, we found out in Tapir Mountain we have an owl called the Central American pygmy owl, which is a very hard bird. Like as birders, when you want to see that bird, that might take you an overnight into the Chicky Bowl to see it. When we started to do research, we're like, you know what? This bird is all over this reserve. And then, yeah, the main thing would be like we start to see the game species come back. Like for me, the biggest one was one day I was walking on a trail and I ran into an ocellated turkey. And that was really cool because once there's ocellated turkey, that means that people are not hunting in the area.
What is an ocellated turkey?
Sir, an ocellated turkey, I wish I had put in a picture.
Yeah.
It's like our version of a peacock.
Oh, okay.
It's very beautiful. It has a bright blue head with some orange spots on it. During breeding season, the males fan their tail like a peacock. Ocellated turkey you can only find in 3 countries: Belize, Mexico, and southern Mexico and northern Guatemala. And that's one of the first species to disappear once there's illegal activity. So to see that bird, that meant that our presence and our research and our rangers are making the impact. Cause, like I had goosebumps when I saw the bird because it was just
beautiful.
It's something that the forest is bouncing back.
Very good. Ms. Danae, a quick last word.
We're grateful for entities like Belize CARS, to be quite honest, sharing their expertise within these areas, assisting our students, igniting that little flame within some of them. We intend to offer the bird training every year at Galen University as we get new students coming in. And it's not just students from our environmental science program, it's students from other programs that actually take interest in this. And it's good for a conservation aspect, and especially us focusing on sustainable development at the university. It's great that we have all of our students be very interested in this area. I especially appreciate, and you asked about a success story, I would say Tyler and Iron. I was having a bit of a problem trying to find their spark within this field, and with birding we found it. So I'm ever grateful for that, and they're now having talks about starting a little birding club at the university, which is something that's very niche, unique in that little small conservation area, but not much needed. So I would say that they are our success story at the university as it relates to this.
Oh, wonderful. And Tyler, you get the last minute to tell us
Yes,
about birding.
I am so grateful for this opportunity that Mr. Canto and Ms. Danae have given me, and Galen, of course. And you guys just push me every day to do my fullest, and I really appreciate you guys for it. Thank you.
You're most welcome. What would be your message to young people out there when it comes to
Never stop. There's always something to do. Never stop. That's my message.
Very good. And that brings us to the end of tonight's episode of the Galen Hour. Francis, Tyler, Miss Danae, thank you so very much. This was so educational. It has given me a whole new perspective on birding. I hope it's done the same for our viewing audience. And yes, protecting our wildlife is absolutely important. Thank you for joining us for tonight's episode of the Galen Hour. We'll be here next week, same place, same time for our final episode of this season. So join us, have a good night, and see you next week.